Hello guys, today we have Laura Ross, who has been long serving as an MLA in Saskatchewan. She has done a lot for film industry, she has done a lot for women empowerment, and you have been the Minister of Women too for public culture and supports.
Right.
And previously you were a realtor, right?
I was a realtor for 23 years, and before that, I was married with my husband. We both went to university. We had 2 kids, but we always were very involved within the community. And politics has always interested me, and I think that I really do appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk to you today about politics in Saskatchewan, where we see women's place in politics. So, when I was 13 years old, I saw a sign that was advertising this gentleman called, and I won't say his name, but anyways, my mom took me to hear this gentleman speak, and he was from the federal NDP. And I came home and she said, "So what did you think?" And I said, "Well, that's not for me." But it really did set me on the path to always being involved, always being interested in politics, because I fully believe that, politics is the backbone of when decisions that are made for how we live our life here. Taxation, all the policies like education, healthcare, all of that. It's all grounded in politics.
Okay. So from growing up in a farmland in Yorkton to getting into politics, like what motivated you to follow the path of politics, and how was life in Yorkton?
Well, as a kid, coming home from school, how most kids go out and play, have a snack and go out and play. I used to come home, have my snack, and I would watch This Is the House, which was a political show that used to interview all the senators and all the members of parliament federally. And so while other kids were out playing on their swings and doing whatever, I was watching that. So it's been just a part of my life from when I was little to today. So I guess this is just it was a progression that, like I said, I always volunteered. My parents always insisted that we participate in volunteering in the community. And from that, it just has progressed to now being, in the past, elected person, and again, seeking election again.
Okay. And what was the thing that motivated you when you were running for the first time for the MLA, and how you got involved into politics at a very initial stage?
Well, like I said, I volunteered. I volunteered to help out on campaigns. And so, it's a very different time working on a campaign.
Yes.
I started out my role as a young person. But, I always believe that if we don't put our shoulder to the wheel, who will? And to me, it's really important. And so, like I said, I always volunteered on campaigns, whether it was door knocking, whether it was making phone calls, or stuffing envelopes, putting letters in envelopes. So at one point, I was asked if I would please consider seeking public office. Now, the first time I ran, I didn't win. I didn't like it.
You took part in 2004?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was, it's 2003, I think it was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 2003. And so I came home and I went, never again am I ever going to do that. It was way too much work. And I don't lose very well. I'm pretty competitive. And so when it came time for the next election, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to volunteer and help out. Well, some people came and asked if I would please consider running, and the riding at that point was called Regina Capel Valley.
Okay.
And so it was a long shot. There was a couple of seats in Regina that for the Saskatchewan Party that they thought were pretty doable. And mine was, don't know if that's going to happen. Well, we worked endlessly. And I have to say I had the A team at that point. And I have the A team again. I had people who were committed and wanted to see that the Saskatchewan Party be elected. And so from then on, I've been very fortunate to be reelected again and again. And so it's like I said, but I fully believe that my work is not done.
Okay. You have been re-elected multiple times.
Yes.
So what made you win every time without any lose? Like you won in 2007 and you have been winning consistently.
Yes. Hard work. hard work and dedication and wonderful volunteers that have come out and that are committed to ensuring that we have a very progressive government being reelected, and that is the Saskatchewan Party. So like I said, I'm very fortunate. I have people who think nothing of giving 10, 12, 15 hours a day to help ensure that I get reelected.
Okay. And is there any specific strategy you follow? Because most of the people like have a very short political career, but you have had a very nice career,
I
and
have.
you're now running for the fourth time.
Well, I feel I've got lots of work to do. As an advocate on behalf of women, my job is not done. And so I know some people say, well, Laura, do you need to run again? I'm passionate about what I get to do. I am passionate about ensuring that the work that I'm doing on behalf of women is being heard across the province.
Okay. And under your leadership, you have made a lot of achievements, and you have worked a lot for the women empowerment, for the film industry.
Yeah.
So starting from film industry, you got a $12 million allocation from to the Creative Saskatchewan Feature Film and Television Production Grant. So how were you able to get the grant, and what was the logic in the back end in which you were able to process that?
Well, what happened was SIMPIA, which is Saskatchewan Motion, that's the an acronym for SIMPIA, is they came and talked to me about the film industry. And I said, people in Saskatchewan, taxpayers in Saskatchewan want to know that their money is being spent responsibly. Can you make an economic case of why the film industry is beneficial to Saskatchewan? So Simpia hired Myers Norris Penny to do an economic impact study on the film industry in Saskatchewan. So when they came back with that study, and I was able to then go to Treasury Board and say, the money being spent comes back to the province of Saskatchewan. Now we have to do it responsibly. The previous government had a film industry that the money was not being automatically required to be spent in Saskatchewan. So I had heard loud and clear from taxpayers saying, if you're going to spend my money, my hard-earned taxpayers' money, I want it to stay here in Saskatchewan. So we reconfigured how the industry was going to benefit from some government funds. So the way it's structured now is that the money that the productions receive is for goods and services spent here in Saskatchewan. So it's very responsible to our taxpayers, because our taxpayers work hard for their money. They want to know that it's being spent responsibly. And so I was able to then increase from 2 million to 12 million. And during that time, as the minister responsible for that, I think we've had either 34 or 36 productions that have taken place. And what we have found, and we've asked them to be, because they're audited throughout the whole process, and we have found for every dollar that we invest into a production, $4 comes back to the province. So it's money well spent.
Okay. And how do you see it influencing the local economy in the long run?
How does in the long term? Well, you know what we're doing, and the film industry is made up. It attracts all ages, but a lot of young people are pretty excited about the film industry, and especially how it's changing, right? Technology. At the soundstage here in the city of Regina, we have the LED or the volume wall. Now, it is the largest in Canada. It's the newest technology in the world, and so it has the filming there has the opportunity to create an environment. So, say you want to shoot a film that's going to take place in Venice.
Okay.
You don't have to go to Venice.
You can just create that.
They create that whole look right here. So it's pretty cool stuff, but it also means that filming here in Saskatchewan is, it's affordable. Like our hotels are affordable, all of that. Also too, when I was in Toronto, and I was there for some meetings with ministers with film, and so we were going to a soundstage, or not a soundstage, but a stage, and the traffic was unbearable. It took us forever. I could have run, and I don't run that well. I could have walked faster than we were in a cab. And I thought, man, if I was, because every minute counts
Yeah.
for dollars, right? For any of those productions. And I thought, man, this would just make me wild. And so it really kind of shines a light on why Regina and why Saskatchewan is the best place in Canada right now to be filming.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And right now, then there's a lot of industry in Vancouver and Ontario. And do you see that Netflix and big production houses would be investing here and would be coming here in the upcoming times?
Well, they are coming to look because the volume wall, like I said, it's for rent. See, we don't own the volume wall. We own the sound stage, and we lease the volume wall to a private company. So it's a really good relationship. And so they will lease it out to different productions. And what happened after COVID? COVID made people crazy. They stayed, ended up staying at home. But it also changed how they view things. And so streaming became very important. So now we know that they need content. So Regina here is the perfect spot. Well, Saskatchewan is the perfect spot for creating content.
Makes sense.
Yes.
And over the film industry, do you see there would be significant changes in the educational system?
Absolutely.
That would be updated with this? Because previously, there were not a lot of co-op opportunities, or for the filmmakers, they had to go to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So do you see a transition that people from Saskatchewan would stay in Saskatchewan as filmmakers?
Absolutely. Well, SAS Polytechnique is looking at designing a program, in fact, for young filmmakers to be able to become trained up in working in the new technology.
Okay.
The University of Regina also has a film industry, but like I said, SAS Polytechnique is really stepping up to the plate and designing their courses that young people would be able to then be, they'd be like young guns for hire, right?
Yeah.
So they would be able to work here, but also if at another production someplace else, they would be able to be hired on. And that is one of the things that really, with the work I've done with SAS Polytechnique and Tanis Wilder there, who's a dean over there, I have to say we have worked really closely in developing the programs for young students to be encouraged to enter into this, but also to, like I said, and we've had this conversation, because this is gaming. It's a gaming platform, is how this is, the whole LED wall is set up. And so what's cool about it is that a lot of the kids that are sitting in the basement that are gaming, right? Well, you know what?
Yeah.
You have opportunities to have a very successful career.
Okay.
So, mom and dad who are kind of going, oh man, Billy's in the basement and all he's doing is playing video games and we're going to have to look after him for the rest of his life. It's not true anymore. It's also an opportunity. It's an exciting industry. And we know that a lot of young people want something that's exciting, and it is.
Okay. And do you see the acting industry to boom too? Because right now,
Absolutely.
there are very less acting opportunities in Saskatchewan. Or in the theater department, there are only maximum of 100 students in the theater department. So do you think that with the film industry growing up, there would be a lot of opportunities for the actors too?
Absolutely. And, I had the opportunity to spend some time this summer talking to young students at a theater school.
Okay.
And, they're excited and they're all, they're playing bit parts and what have you. But this is the opportunity for us to really grow the industry.
Recently, what we were observing is that most of the actors either act in one or two theaters that are here or they go to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So you see a big transition.
It's going to change. Absolutely, it's going to change. And this is an opportunity for them to still have a really good lifestyle here, affordable lifestyle here. Let's face it, our rent compared to rent in Vancouver. If you were an actor in Vancouver, where do you think you're living? You're probably sharing a basement suite with a whole bunch of other people because rent's high. Whereas here you can have a decent lifestyle because it is affordable and you still get to practice your craft.
Yeah. And in Saskatchewan, is there any other thing which you see that would be changing over the period of time or you have changed?
In regards to
the film industry?
Well, I just think it's growing. It's growing bigger. And, we had an opportunity to film at Reindeer Lake alone. And that was pretty graphic, but absolutely. What happens is we end up with tourism based on some of these shows. People see the what Saskatchewan has to offer for our beautiful landscapes, and so they want to be able to see where were these shows being filmed, and then they come and visit. So it really it's a multi-pronged approach.
Okay. And what do you see, where do you see Saskatchewan film industry on the global film industry scale, especially within Canada? Like right now, Vancouver is on top. Do you see that Saskatchewan would be getting on top for a specific genre?
Well, we have some pretty specific genres that are taking place here. And we have smaller productions that are taking place, a lot of Indigenous productions, children productions. So we're really carving out a really good niche for that. But like I said, we're not going to try and chase what Vancouver's doing or what Toronto's doing. What we're doing here is pretty darn special. And I've had producers say to me that the kind of financial support that they are receiving from our government, from the Saskatchewan government, is way better than any place else. So they really like how we've restructured it.
Okay, and you have been at the forefront of the government efforts to combat domestic violence and human trafficking, particularly through funding the programs of Hope Resorted Canada. So can you speak about the importance of housing, counseling, and skills training in helping survivors rebuild themselves?
Absolutely. Well, our numbers are high, way too high in Saskatchewan for interpersonal violence. And, a lot of it is I think we have more and more people coming forward to talk about what has happened to them. So we've worked very closely with other ministers of status women across Canada, and with the provinces and the territories and the federal government. Saskatchewan was the first province to sign on to the National Action Plan to End Gender-Based Violence. And that is a multi-pronged approach on how do we approach it. And one of the things we did here is we really advocated hard that the programs that we have are specifically designed for Saskatchewan. I know the federal government wanted it to be the same across the whole country. Well, we're not the same across the whole country. Our issues here in Saskatchewan are different than in Eastern Canada or in the Northwest Territories or in BC. So we really made sure that the programs that we are offering here in Saskatchewan are specifically designed for Saskatchewan. One of the things we've done is we've put out some videos called Face the Issue.
Okay.
And it started out with just an informational issue and also making sure that there isn't a blame game. Right? So that women don't say, well, this is all my fault. I deserve this. Absolutely not. So we started out with that video, and then we progressed on to numerous different scenarios in these videos and Face the Issues. And the last one was targeting young people at university and Sask Polytechnic and in high schools on what's appropriate relationships.
Okay.
And so we're really, like I said, working hard on behalf of women for that. Also, too, we've got 211, which is a line where they can phone, because there are different programs, different places where individuals who are experiencing interpersonal violence can get help. So, but a lot of times they don't know. So we've really gone full bore and making sure that we have got the message out. And then when we talk about human trafficking, this is also something I'm just passionate about it, because to me, people say, well, it's not happening here. It's happening someplace else. It's in another country. No, it is happening here, right in our province, right in our cities, right in our communities. And so we have a poster program that is going up. And I'll tell you a good example. So there I am, went to visit my sister in Arizona, and I'm in the middle of the gray desert. I mean, that sand is not that attractive. It was gray. We stopped in at a truck stop in the middle of, there was nothing around, and I had to go to the washroom. And when I went in and I closed the door, there was a poster saying, if you are experiencing trafficking or think you're experiencing trafficking, here's a phone number for you. So I took my phone out and I snapped a picture of that, and I sent it back to our executive director at Status of Women. I said, we need to get onto this. We need to get onto this idea right now. So we partnered with Brown Communication here in Regina. Oh man, they are a group of very smart, lots of women in that organization in that company.
Okay.
And so they did a lot of focus testing. They talked to different organizations and women to say exactly what do we need to see on some posters that we can then put into truck stops, gas stations, convenience stores, things like that, of how we can ensure that women who are being, or individuals who are being trafficked,
Yeah.
that they know that there's help for them. So we worked at that. Then I had an opportunity that Paul Brandt, the country music singer, is very well known and very well respected in the country music. But Paul has started an organization called Not in My City. And in fact, I'm proudly wearing one of their here it is, hashtag Not in My City. And so they're doing very similar work as we are in human trafficking, ensuring that we get the message out. There's hope for you, there's help for you. Don't hesitate.
Okay. Before you joined Saskatchewan Party, like if we see you before 2007
Yes.
and now in 2024,
Yeah.
what differences do you see in women empowerment in terms of human trafficking? Are there any positive changes when you compare
Absolutely.
that time and this
Yes,
time?
yes, there is. And you know, right now, I put out a nice little video the other night on the women that are running for our party.
Okay.
We've got capable, competent, strong women
Yeah.
that have stepped forward. They're business women, entrepreneurs, healthcare providers, women who have sat on school boards, you know, women who have deputy mayors, reeves. So we have women of all genres that are participating. So I'm really proud of that. One of the things I used to be the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarian Representative for Canada. And with that, that is made up of all women that are elected both provincially and federally and in the Senate. And that is a nonpartisan organization affiliated with the Commonwealth. And so one of the things I did when I was president of that is I did a lot of work mentoring young women across the country, but also too, we did some homework and did some research and put together what we call a toolbox, and it's called She Should Run. And it is a book that tells, it kind of gives you all the step-by-steps of, you know, because a lot of women say, well, I don't know where to go and I don't know where to start. And it's full of that kind of information. So I feel very proud of the work that I have done in that. And then, like I said, going across the country, going across the province, encouraging and talking to women about seeking public office. You know, it's one of the most rewarding jobs you can have.
So Saskatchewan has implemented significant legislative changes to protect women of human trafficking. So what role do you believe legislation plays in both prevention and rehabilitation? Like, are there gaps in the legal system that still need to be addressed, or are they all addressed?
Well, there's never, you know, there's always going to be more work to do. And a lot of it has to do with informing the public. We have put forward legislation. You know, we have equal pay for equal work legislation in our government. We have anti-harassment legislation. So we have put forward a lot of really good legislative pieces that have directly affected women. But then when we talk about we need to know we need to let women know about the protection they have, the avenues they have to get help. And so we have put a significant amount of money into funding for programs and projects for women.
Is there any specific program you would like to highlight?
Well, that comes to mind because we work closely with Justice. Minister Eyre and I have worked very closely together to talk to different women organizations like the YWCA. We have funded shelters there. You know, second stage housing for women who have fled domestic violence. So we have really not shirked our duty in ensuring that we are doing our job for women in Saskatchewan.
Okay. And your work includes initiatives like self-esteem workshops for young girls.
Yes.
So how important is the early intervention in preventing domestic violence and exploitation in later life? Like, can these workshops be expanded to province-wide?
I think so. And, you know, Minister Christine Tell and myself have always advocated very strongly because I always say if you can see it, you can be it. And so we started in 2008, I think I hosted my first workshop, and it was based on the information from the Dove Self-Esteem advertising campaign. And in fact, I got hold of the person who put together that campaign and talked to her about what can we do here in Saskatchewan. And so Sharon McLeod was the person who drove that whole campaign. And so Sharon got on a plane and came out here for the first workshop that I presented, and it was wonderful. But it was so fulfilling for me as an individual, to see these young girls come. Now, when they come to these workshops, they don't come by themselves.
Okay.
They bring their mom or their auntie or their big sister or their nana or their kukum. So it's not just an afternoon of girls getting together, but it's an afternoon of girls working through with their moms or their person of influence to their lives. And what we do is we really want young girls to know how to be comfortable in their own skin. Because we know that if young girls have strong self-esteem, they grow up to be strong women.
Yeah.
We also have been very fortunate to have the city police come and also present at our workshops on how girls can stay safe on social media. Because social media doesn't stop outside of the house. It comes inside your house. And so we have to make sure that young girls know when to turn something off or when to go and talk to their parents about if they're being bullied, if they're being harassed, so that we don't have situations where young girls put themselves in, where they go, I don't know how this happened to me. And it also tears down their self-esteem. We want girls to be strong because, as I said, strong girls grow up to be strong women.
Yeah, makes sense. And as a minister responsible for the status of women, what challenges have you faced in balancing gender equality with other pressing political priorities? And how do you ensure that women issues remain at front and in the center in your legislative agenda?
Well, when people say women's issues, I'm going to say all issues are women's issues. Education, healthcare, safety, housing, all of that.
Yeah.
Whether it's men or women, it's all our issue. And so, when someone says, oh, that's a women's issue, no, it's not. It's all of our issue. Interpersonal violence, that's all of our issue. Ensuring that our children are getting a really good education, that's all of our issue. So those are balancing that out. But I always feel that it's really important that we have strong, capable, competent women's voices at the decision-making table, so that when the decisions are being made, they're taking them into account.
Okay. And still, do you feel any challenges, or do you see that everything is going now good when as compared to things that were happening in 2007?
Well, they've come a long way. We've come a long way.
Both of the time periods.
Well, when I was first elected in 2007, the status of women had one person working within the office, and it didn't have a high profile. When I took on that role as being the minister responsible for the status of women, we now have researchers, we have summer students that come, and it's young women that are excited to come and be able to work in that industry. And then the executive director there is really, she's a strong advocate. And, I had the opportunity to go to the United Nations and present on the work that we are doing here in Saskatchewan on Face the Issue. And we talked about all the different legislation that we are bringing forward, like Clare's Law, and things like that. Also ensuring that, say, if a woman is in a rental situation and she has to flee, right, because of interpersonal violence, she is not held to the financial burden of that lease. So we have legislation in place for that. And so I got to talk about that at the United Nations. And these people came from all over and said, well, how do you do that in Saskatchewan? I said, well, first off, you make sure that when you're sitting around the cabinet table, you talk about these issues. It's not just done on a sidebar, on the side of the desk, but in fact, it's brought to the cabinet table where big decisions are being made, so that we ensure that legislation that comes forward is ensuring that interpersonal violence is being dealt with.
How was your experience in the UN?
It was exciting. I mean, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was I shouldn't say scary, but it was a one-off moment. And the person, my chief of staff that was with me, she kept saying, okay, pinch me, because I don't think we're really here. I said, yes, we're really here. And like I said, it was something that it was probably once in a lifetime, but I've had the opportunity to present on behalf of women in Africa, in the UK, and in Iceland. So I've had the opportunity to really present on behalf of women of Canada, but women in Saskatchewan, and the kind of work we're doing here in our province.
Okay. And when you were in UN and you
Yeah.
presented the whole thing,
Yeah.
what was the reaction of people?
They were excited. And you know what was interesting is that a member of parliament from the United Kingdom, from the UK, came and talked to me. And see, they had brought forward Clare's Law.
Okay.
We have made it legislation. They have never acted upon it. And she said, well, how did you do that? And I said, we just did it. She said, well, you know what? You need to come and you need to talk to my colleagues to say, how do we move this forward? And so those are some of the things that I got to share on how we implemented some of these really important changes for women.
That's really great. And Equal Voices, the organization you co-founded,
Yeah.
promotes like women's participation in politics, increasing global focus on gender equality.
Right.
Do you feel Saskatchewan is doing enough to support women in leadership, not just in politics, but across industries like films and arts and business?
Right. Well, you know, I was really proud of the work I did in getting Equal Voice here up and running in Saskatchewan. I found it became a little too partisan for me. I like to work I don't want politics to get in the way of advancing women in public office. But so I felt really good about that. But you know, I've worked very closely with WESC, which is Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan.
Okay.
And that is an absolutely incredible organization that is encouraging and helping finance, but also steer women into growing their own business, scaling up their businesses. So I feel pretty good about that, in that we work closely with them to ensure that women are really becoming, and they are, major partners in our economy. And I always believe that a woman who has economic security is far less likely to enter into interpersonal violence because they know who they are. They also have the financial ability to say, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I am not dependent on you. And so it's, to me, I see that as a really good path forward for women.
And could you mention any significant achievements of your organization, Equal Voice?
Equal Voice does workshops also for encouraging women to seek public office. I know I had gone with young women from across Saskatchewan to Ottawa on International Women's Day, where they all took a seat on the floor of Parliament. It was pretty exciting to see, and so I felt really good about being a champion for young women. And I'm always open to talking to young women about seeking public office, but women of all ages. I think it's really important that we have a wide range of backgrounds, of ages, and so to me it just makes for better democracy when we have everyone that has the ability to have their voice being heard.
Yeah. And throughout your career, you have advocated for causes that require significant long-term investment and focus, either
Yes.
it be women empowerment, either it be film industry. They
Yes.
take time. So things such as domestic violence prevention and growth for cultural industry. How do you maintain that momentum since you have been working since 2007? So how do you maintain that balance and momentum on these issues in the political environment that often favor short-term gains?
Well, you know what? I look at all of this as a long game. There's no short term for me. To me, this is life changing. It's career changing for so many women. We cannot look at this in a 4-year election cycle.
Yeah.
I look upon this as life changing for so many women, girls in Saskatchewan, in the long term. So for me, I have been committed working on behalf of women, advocating on behalf of women since I was in university. This is not new for me. So, this is a lot of years, and I'm not prepared to quit.
But how do you maintain the momentum? Because if you're bringing out a policy for women empowerment,
Yes.
and you have only 4 years, and that might take 10 years, and it needs to be even if you're not in the office, still it needs to be maintained, those policies.
Right.
So what precaution measures do you take usually?
Well, we set up the programs and the funding so that they're not just short term, right? So that they have long term and that the residual effects are being felt across the whole province. So that was one of the whole reasons of when we signed on to the National Action Plan. It wasn't just a 1 year, it wasn't just a 2 year. It was a plan I signed on for 4 years. But then from that, it builds into education, all of those sort of things that have a long-term effect.
Okay. And looking back, what do you consider your most significant accomplishment? Till now, what is your most significant accomplishment?
In my time in government,
Yeah.
gosh, I think every day is an accomplishment right now during the election. But I have to say, I just feel, okay, here's a good example. I have been in a grocery store waiting to pay for my groceries. And this man came up, man and woman came up and said, I don't know if you know what you did. And I'm thinking, well, what did I do? And they said, our granddaughter was experiencing great emotional difficulty within their home. And she went to and participated in one of our self-esteem workshops with her mom. And they said it changed their life.
Okay.
If I can make one difference, my job is.
And what are your future priorities or plans as you continue serving the people of Saskatchewan?
Well, I still have lots of work to do. As you know, we have entered into agreement with Not in My City for a conference next summer in Saskatchewan. So that's going to be exciting, where investigators, counselors that are working in human trafficking are coming from across Canada and outside of Canada to be able to learn from each other, breaking down silos, things like that. So, that's another goal for me, is participating in something like that.
And with elections approaching, you have accomplished much of your time as MLA. But if re-elected, what are your key priorities moving forward? Are there any specific initiatives in the film industry or ongoing projects regarding domestic violence, beside the conference you mentioned already?
Well, I serve at the pleasure of the Premier.
Okay.
And so when he asked me to take on the role as Minister of Parks, Culture, Sports, Status of Women, Heritage, Francophonie, Heritage, did I say heritage? Probably said it twice. It's pretty important in this province. And lotteries and gaming. It was a big, it was a big portfolio. And I believe I've done a really good job because all of those aspects really intrigue me, and I'm passionate and committed to them. But like I said, you serve at the pleasure of the Premier.
Okay. And looking ahead, what new challenges do you foresee in Saskatchewan, and how do you intend to address them?
Well, I think there's always going to be challenges in Saskatchewan in encouraging young people to stay here. And I think what we've done so smartly is we've got the graduate retention program. So it's keeping young people here. Those are some of the things that we have implemented that I think there was challenges before during the previous government, during the NDP. Young people were leaving. They didn't see a future here for themselves. We've changed that. We've changed the dial on that. And so they're staying here. But you have to make sure, because a lot of young people say, well, what's in it for me? Why would I stay here? What's in it for me? Well, providing exciting, well-paying jobs, but also, too, if you look at some of the things that we are implementing or have committed to, if we are so fortunate to form government again, is one, increasing the graduate retention grant money. And also, too, there's an interesting thing, and a couple of young people on my campaign are newlyweds, bought their first house and things like that. So they're benefiting from the grant, but also too, we've got the renovation tax credit coming up. So, again, if they want to build a suite in the basement and then be able to supplement their income, they have the ability to do that. Because young people keep saying, well, what's in it for me? There's something in it for all of them.
And how do you see the future of Saskatchewan's economy?
I see it great. It's going to be bright.
Yeah, but at the same time, AI is coming up, and as per the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman said that by 2026, 85% of the jobs would be replaced by AI, and by next year,
I don't believe
around
that.
25%.
I don't believe that. I remember, do you remember when, what was it, 2000, the year 2000, all our computers were going to crash and the world was going to end and life as we know it was no longer going to be the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, artificial intelligence, yeah, it's there, but it's not going to be the end all and be all. When I find out people want to deal with people.
Okay.
Don't you hate when you pick up a phone, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for this, press 4 for this, press 5 for ignore me?
Yeah.
How do you feel when all of a sudden you phone someplace and somebody says, hi, it's Laura, how can I help you? You feel valued, right? That's what people want. People want to feel valued.
But when we see the back end of different organizations, for instance, developing a website or a lot of things that are not recently, like take 3 weeks or maybe 3 months, could be done from one click with AI. A lot of jobs would be replaced or would have to be changed.
You know what's interesting about AI? And a lot of people don't understand it and know it. The minute you use AI, and I met with book publishers, and the minute you use AI, you no longer have copyright. So if you think you own the information on your website, which was created by AI, you don't. And that's what people have to understand. It's not the end all and be all. It may be the fast, easy, lazy man's way of doing it. It's not the proper way of doing it. You still need to use people's smarts. You still need to use their talents. And AI, well, there's probably some good points to it, but you don't own the rights to it. And that's what people have to understand.
Makes sense. And overall, how do you see the education system with AI coming up? Like, do you see things would change a lot, or do you see
Well,
that
it has
things would
changed
stay
a
the
lot,
same?
and it's interesting because how students write papers, right? So I was talking to my grandson, Simon. He's a smart young guy, very talented, smart in school, great musician. And I said, so, what's up with you, Simon? And he said, well, Nana, I'm writing a paper on Napoleon. I said, so, oh, okay, so are you're working on it? No, he said, I went and did my homework, did my research, but we have to sit down and write the paper in the class so that we can just use a bit of our notes, but we have to write that paper in the class because the teacher is concerned that a lot of students are having the papers generated by AI. How does that make them smart? It makes them dumber.
Okay.
Right? So that's how education is changing. I know when my husband taught at the university here, he said, you could see which students thought they could get away with producing a paper, but then when it came to write the exam, they failed miserably because they didn't know what they were doing. So you can tell. So in the long run, do you want someone who knows how to learn, who knows how to do their own homework, or do you want someone who's lazy, who goes on a computer, has somebody else's brains, produce something for them? Would you want to hire a person like that?
No.
They don't have integrity, right? They're looking for somebody else to do their work.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And how do you see the political future of Canada? Like when AI will be coming up, do you think that maybe not only a human would be running it, there would be some AI robot with a human?
You know what? We've been out door knocking. People still want to meet you on the door. There's no robot going to be able to come to the door and say, hi, I'm here. My name is Cindy the robot. No, they still want to have Laura at their door or a volunteer on my behalf at their door talking to them, finding out what their concerns are, finding out what their issues are. People want the human touch.
Okay. And lastly, if given the opportunities to become the Chief Minister or the Prime Minister of Canada, what 2 changes would you like to do?
Well, first we'd have to have a big election. And
you are the Prime Minister of Canada for 2 days, and you can just make two changes.
two changes.
Yeah. So what would be those two changes?
Well, I get rid of the carbon tax. There you go. And that probably would be enough to be able to say, job well done.
And the second one?
Second one, oh gosh. I don't know if the Prime Minister has that much control. I'm just going to stick with getting rid of the carbon tax.
Okay. And lastly, what advice do you want to give to young women who are considering a career in public service or politics, especially in traditionally male-dominated sectors like film production or legislative leadership?
Right. You know, be comfortable in your own skin, know who you are, and then put your best foot forward.
Okay. And is there any particular issue or project you are currently working on and you feel particularly passionate about and you would like to share with others?
Well, I think I talked to you about our campaign with Paul Brandt next year. So that's in the future. Yeah.
And is there anything else you would like to say to the viewers? Or
No.
advice?
Well, my advice is to young women to volunteer on a campaign, start to participate, to all women, in fact, and find out what politics is all about, what public office is all about, and then put your name forward.
Okay. Thank you very much, Laura, for
Thank
joining
you
us today.
Okay, take care.